Mel Kiper, the ESPN NFL draft expert, has dropped his latest 2024 NFL draft big board. I want to run through it and discuss which players do and do not fit for the Cowboys in this year's draft. We did this video previously. The orders changed pretty significantly, so a good time to look at it again. Now, we will also do more NFL draft coverage for you here on the channel. If you want a Cowboys mock draft with trades, I think a lot of us do, like today's video right now. Cowboys picking at number 24. We will go quick on the top 10. They're not going to get there for it to you, even with the bong video. Caleb Williams, number 1. Marvin Harrison. Jayden Daniels over Drake Maye, surprisingly, but doesn't matter for the Cowboys. Odunze is number 4. Malik Nabers is number 6. Brock Bowers is 7. Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, Dallas Turner. Those guys aren't going to be there for you. I'd be pretty shocked if they were. And it probably means something went so wrong, you don't want to take them anyway. Brian Thomas Jr. is next up here, the other LSU wide receiver. He'd be a really fun fit. I think post-combine, 11 is, I think, a little bit high as it is right now, but post-combine, he ain't going to be there on pick number 24. It just seems the long, tall, fast guy doesn't end up sliding to you. All right, Troy Fashanu here out of Washington. Mel loves him. I like him. 12 is rich for me, but this does fit your left side of the offensive line concern. Fashanu's run blocking didn't grade out that great from PFF. I thought was maybe a little bit too low from what I studied, but the pass blocking was still very effective. The length concerns will put some teams at guard for him. Kiper's got an Elijah Vera Tucker comp on him. It's a little bit rich for me, but I do think there's a good chance he's there at pick number 24. So of the guys on this list, this is the first, okay, I think there's a real chance he ends up being there. Then there's 3 corners in a row. Cooper DeJean, Nate Wiggins, Terrion Arnold. Iowa, Clemson, and Alabama. I don't know if any of these guys will get there, and I know not all 3 guys will end up being there. Some different styles here. Nate Wiggins is the long, lanky corner who can do some press man stuff still. Type of corner that I'm a big fan of, and I am a big fan of his game. Of course, like all 3 of these guys. Cooper DeJean is a really gifted straight line athlete. Return value. Great tackler, by the way. There's going to be some. Could he play nickel safety conversation? I think he could. But I think corner is more valuable there. And Terrion Arnold has been a big riser in this kind of last couple months of the regular season. Took a huge step forward. Targeted much more. That's why his yards are higher. Made a ton of plays on the ball, though, as well. Now, keeping it somewhat realistic, I would love Marvin Harrison Jr. He ain't going to be a Cowboy. Who is your ideal round 1 Cowboys draft pick? It's the pinned comment on today's video. So if that ad plays on YouTube, ignore it. Nobody cares. Ignore the ad. Go vote at the pinned comment instead. Number 16, Laiatu Latu out of UCLA. He could be on the board, but would probably only be because of medicals. And that is its own red flag in and of itself. And it almost falls into the, if he's there, it probably means you don't want him because there's something wrong category. Which is a weird kind of dichotomy, but I think it actually does make sense. If it weren't for the medicals, we were talking about Latu being in that number 10 spot as the top-ranked defensive player on Mel's board. Edge rusher, solid run stopper, lot to like about his game. But there are the big medical concerns. Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo is next up here. Sucker for a MAC guy, since I did go to a MAC school as well. Mitchell also wasn't thrown at that much. When he was, he often broke up the pass. Always a good sign. You can go back to last year's game and watch NIU. He had 4 interceptions in that game. And that was kind of the point that other teams were like, okay, maybe we shouldn't throw at him anymore. That game kind of reminds you of I was covering Miami of Ohio, and Khalil Mack was the opposite edge rusher, and he single-handedly beat them. He had 3 strip sacks in one game, 2 of which went for score, something ridiculous. And I was like, yeah, he's different. And the coach's like, I've heard him top 5 pick. Man, look like the number 1 overall pick tonight. Ended up not being all that wrong. All right, back on topic here. 2 more offensive linemen, Taliese Fuaga and Tyler Guyton. Fuaga, I don't think gets there. And B, I don't trust him on the left side at left tackle. I think he's going to be a really good right tackle. If he does get there, the value might be too good, but I think he goes earlier. Tough to see him get out the top 18 for me. Bengals stand out as a good fit there. Guyton, though, could. Now, Guyton fits into another guy we'll get to here in a little bit on today's show among the off tackle options. Didn't allow a sack this year. Didn't play as much either. But the athletic traits, the upside, knowing he's raw and needs development and needs polishing, you don't find tackles that move like that at that size. There are several in this year's class. Makes it such a good class at the position. I think could flip over to the left side, and you could have the Tyler and Tyler law firm of Guyton and Smith on the left side of your offensive line. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. They help keep the lights on here at the Cowboys Report, and we greatly appreciate that from Game Time. Game Time is the place to get last-minute tickets to whatever event you're going to. Maybe it's the Mavs. Maybe it's the Stars. Maybe you don't live in Dallas and it's a different pro sporting team. Maybe it's a comedy show. Maybe it's theater to make your girl happy. Maybe it's just a music concert thing. Game Time has whatever you need for the best deals out there. You can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps, and they have deals right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts, because it is the place to find last-minute seats and deals. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Using promo code CowboysChat gets you $20 off your first purchase. Download the app, create your account at gametime.co. Pull up the app, go bottom right, click profile. You'll see redeem code. Plug in COWBOYSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, all guaranteed. A new addition on Mel's big board now is Edgerrin Cooper, the top linebacker out of Texas A&M. He's, I think, I'm not done yet, obviously, and I still use combine stuff, and so does Mel, too, obviously. I think he'll be my number 1 linebacker when it's all said and done. And I think the things he does could have him fit really well in a Mike Zimmer defense. And I think that Edgerrin Cooper can be your, realistic, still good, quote-unquote, worst-case scenario. Like, the board does not fall the way you want to. All the tackles were off the board. The corners went. You don't love anybody else. You go, we'll just take the linebacker. Or even you trade down and take the linebacker. I don't think he gets to you in round 2. I think a similar player gets to you in round 2 at the position. And that's why I would prefer to go maybe offensive line in round 1, take that spot, because the talent difference and the impact difference becomes more steep going linebacker, offensive line than it would be going offensive line, linebacker. But Cooper's a good football player. And in terms of I don't love it, but you know what? If that's the outcome, it could be a lot worse. It's been in previous years. Cooper fits that mold. What position do you guys want to draft in round 1? All things being equal, relative to this class, what position group do you want to address in the first round? Jared Verse. Next up here, the defensive end. I think he's good, not great. He would have been probably a top 20-ish pick last year. Probably goes in the similar range. The numbers don't look all that different, from the past 2 years. The big difference we saw from Verse was the numbers kind of came down the stretch this year. He had 4.5 sacks in his last 2 games. He was kind of a bit more MIA than I prefer earlier on this season. J.C. Latham, next up here. I do like the player. He actually might be higher than 22 on my board if he tests well enough. But I don't see a left tackle option, and I don't want to draft the first-round right tackle and then either be wasting my first-round pick or Terrence Steele. I don't want to commit to that at this stage. Now, we will have plenty of Cowboys draft coverage for you. The Combine coming up just around the corner. We'll have coverage for you there. Hit that sub button for more Cowboys draft videos. J.J. McCarthy is next up here, and I don't think he gets to you from that. I think he goes to the board top 15. Too many quarterback-needy teams, whether it's Atlanta, Denver, Minnesota, Raiders. I think someone takes him there. If you love a quarterback, though, in the back end of round 1, and you haven't figured out your quarterback's long-term status, you got to consider it. With that said, I don't think there's going to be a quarterback you love at the back end of round 1. Darius Robinson here, I think could be a good fit. Like, this could be a good Tank Lawrence replacement, like long term, and do some good versatile pieces for you, like DT and defensive end. Back end of round 1 is the right range for him. I think maybe a slight overreaction to jump to 24, but not by much. Then there's Amarius Mims. We've mentioned so many tackles in this top 25, and I'm hopeful one of them gets to a 24 because I want to have the option. And Mims is one of the bigger boom or bust prospects in this year's class. He's played about 800 snaps on offense. That's barely a full season's worth. Mostly on the right side, but much like Tyler Guyton, he didn't allow a sack or a hit in college. Never got beat like that. Again, small sample size. Great athlete, moves well, great size, upside galore. I think has the traits to play on the left side of the offensive line. But it's a question of, does he get to you? And do you trust him to be your left tackle starter, depending on what ends up happening with Tyron Smith? Do you trust the Cowboys drafting, folks? I'm going to get to some more names not on Mel's big board, his just top 25 prospects. Didn't go to 25. I got some more names here. Do you trust their drafting? Y for yes, N for no. Other prospects here, Keon Coleman. I like the player. Some of the more stable advanced metrics have red flag profiles there. He's not a great separator. Kind of raises red flags for me. Jackson Powers Johnson. And we'll go ahead and merge Graham Barton here as well. I think JPJ should probably be on that top 25. I think he might be on my top 25, as long as he tests, above average, which I think he will. Plug and play center options. Man, I would love Jackson Powers Johnson. I think Steelers and Dolphins fans might have something to say about that, though, too. Jordan Morgan had been on Mel's big board before. Not great arm length. Cowboys like length. Might be a red flag for him. Defensively, 2 defensive tackles. Jerzon Newton, Byron Murphy II. I like both guys a lot. They're not the biggest players. They're 3 techniques. I mean, Newton was wildly impactful at Illinois. Murphy was a great tandem with Javon. I think Sweat's more of a day 2 guy, to be clear. But both those guys are probably going to be among your top 10 prospects if they're on the board when you're on the clock at 24. Chop Robinson might get to jump back up the draft rankings when he blows up the combine, but that's counting it twice. Great athlete, the production not the greatest. Also sliding is Kool-Aid McKinstry. I hope he's not my Tease Tabor 2.0 where I just get too excited and ignore the speed concerns that are there. But if he tests decently, I'm in on him. I think we're overthinking McKinstry to a little bit. His name's Kool-Aid. He's going to be great. But the freshman starter part-time at Alabama who teams didn't want to throw at normally is a good indication of NFL success. So I think with what Zimmer wants to do, Kool-Aid's a damn good fit.